Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Lots to get into this morning. De Gea potentially going on loan, Brandon Williams potentially leaving Manchester United, the latest on Camavinga, the latest on Paul Pogba, but we're going to Koundé as well being mentioned, but we're going to start off with Raphael Varane, a story coming in from ESPN, from at Laurence Julien, who a lot of people like actually. I think he's quite a popular person, but basically what he's saying is that a Varane deal is quite far away, there's uncertainty about it, and that Donny van de Beek could be used as part of the deal with Donny van de Beek going to Real Madrid. Look, what I would say about this is I know a lot of people like this journalist. I don't know whether it's because he's entertaining or because he's actually credible, but he does work for ESPN, and at the end of the day, I'm not convinced that ESPN needs to be listened to in relation to this. Look, the reality is there is a fear around Varane. I tweeted this morning. I mean, I'm 75% sure we'll get him. Am I ready to drop? Maybe. Am I ready to go higher? I hope so. But there is, even on that, there's a 25% chance it won't happen. And look, he's given his word. He's agreed personal terms. He said he wants a new challenge. I believe all those things are true. And it's not just from me. It's from lots of other people as well. But the risk in the room is not Chelsea. It's not PSG, it's not Bayern Munich, it's Real Madrid. He's a Real Madrid player, and that's why I'm not 90% or 80% or anything like that. He's a Real Madrid player. They want to keep him, and there is still that chance of Ramos 2015 that he says, I'm going to stay at Real Madrid. Now, I don't think everything. Well, people would say, well, why are you not 50-50 then? I'm not 50-50 because his agency is stellar. His agency is stellar, and there's a lot of Premier League players there. He does want a new challenge. He has been there for a very long time. So I think that there is every indication to believe that Varane will leave Real Madrid and that Manchester United will win this race. But I'm not going to be blind to the fact that there is concern there. And when there is concern there, this is where things like this will grow, that he might end up staying. But I don't think any Spanish outlets are that confident he's going to stay. Manchester United meant to be offering about 12 million euros a year, which I don't know what that works out at. It doesn't work out that much, really, does it? What's 12 million euros a year? We know that David De Gea is on about 18 million pounds a year. 12 million euros a year is about, 8 million, 9 million euros? I don't know. So, 8 million, 9 million. So that would be around sort of 180 grand a week, which I would expect us to be going a little bit more than that. £250,000 a week is about £12 million, not 12 million euros, which is apparently what we've offered, which is a lot of money, which I don't think Real Madrid will offer. As for Donny van de Beek being part of the deal, well, look, Manchester Evening News are saying that we're looking to loan out David De Gea. PSG seem to be getting hold of Paul Pogba. I want to talk about that. I said it this morning as well, for every Sancho, Pogba might leave. For every Camavinga, we keep Mata and Matic. The transfer window for me is not just buying players. It's what we do in relation to who leaves and who we keep as well. That's what, ruthlessness in getting rid of the deadwood, aggressive in keeping the players we need to keep. There's no point being aggressive but not ruthless. Like, aggression without being ruthless is getting in a boxing ring and saying, I can knock you out, but I tell you what, I'm not going to. I'm just going to dock. You've got to use that aggression to be ruthless. And I think this transfer window, as I've called it for many times, is on a knife edge. It could be a great transfer window. It could be okay. It could be not that good. And at the moment, I think we've started off really, really well, but we need to keep building on that. Mark Goldbridge's daddy says, absolutely buzzing. Managed to get my hands on Manchester United versus Leeds tickets. Atmosphere is going to be insane. Yeah, we will have fans in the ground, which is fantastic. So, yeah, look, on Varane, I think what's happening with Varane here is that we're getting into a situation whereby we're waiting on a decision, and when you're waiting on a decision, because this deal it's not even a week. It's not even a week yet since we had Sancho. Here we go. I know that feels like a month ago, but it's not even a week. So we've moved a lot with Varane and Camavinga in the last few days, and I think that we're probably not at a point where we're going to get Varane. Here we go before next week. So therefore, you're going to get this uncertainty. Oh, he's thinking of staying now. I don't think that's the case. I think it's just going to take a bit of time. I do, personal terms, as we know, are not a problem with Varane. Negotiating with Real Madrid should not be a problem either. I think this is about whether Real Madrid think they can keep him and whether Varane is going to stand by his decision and leave. And that's what will happen around that. But can I just say as well, I was saying, what was it I said? I said something along the lines of, well, I put it to you. If you get Varane, you get Camavinga, and you get Jadon Sancho, is that a good transfer window? Yes, it is. But if you lose Paul Pogba, to me, that would be typical Manchester United, that we provide a team for Paul Pogba to win a title with, and then he leaves. And that'll be on United for doing it too slow. And I had people saying to me last night, well, I think if we get those three and Pogba goes, it won't be that bad. Look, whatever you think about Paul Pogba, I've been in this situation for years with Manchester United. If you don't replace good players, it doesn't matter what you buy. If you don't replace that player, then you're not going to be successful. Ronaldo left for 80 million, and we were like, oh wow, we can spend that money. We didn't replace Ronaldo. We bought players in, but we didn't replace Ronaldo. We didn't really replace Roy Keane. We had to, rebuild in a different way. But with Paul Pogba, look, when Ander Herrera left, people were like, oh, he's just a passion merchant. He's not that good. There's loads of midfielders better than him. We never replaced him. If Paul Pogba leaves, Camavinga's not Paul Pogba. Jadon Sancho's not Paul Pogba, and certainly Raphael Varane is not Paul Pogba. By all means, believe that Manchester United are better off without Paul Pogba, but I'm talking about one of the best midfielders in the world. I'll have that argument with anybody. You can talk to me about consistency, you can talk to me about he hasn't delivered this, that and the other. Here's an opportunity where he can deliver. He's got a top-class 2 centre-backs behind him. He's got a top-class number 10. He's got top-class wide players. You're going to give him a midfielder that can work with him. Paul Pogba, as we've seen for France and for Manchester United and for Juventus, you put him into a team with other good players around him. His passing range is world class. His ability to run with the ball is world class. He's physical. He can make, his creativity is world class. He's a skillful player as well. I do disagree with this whole we'll be fine without Paul Pogba. It's like bloody Fred's walking out the door or McTominay's walking out the door. This is Paul Pogba. For me, you bring Sancho in and you let Pogba go, we're probably in a worse situation. And I rate Sancho, but I don't think people are really thinking through Paul Pogba leaving this club. Oh, we'll be fine if we get Camavinga. Bullshit! Are you having a bloody laugh? Paul Pogba walks out the door and we bring Camavinga in and we're fine. Oh, we're fine, are we? An 18-year-old who's going to take probably a year or two to adapt to the Premier League. So we will remove Pogba, stick with McFred. Oh yeah, that sounds great because we've got Sancho and Varane in the team. I'm not having this. I think Paul Pogba leaving Manchester United is a bad thing. And unless I see an out-and-out replacement for Paul Pogba coming into that team, I don't see how we're okay if Pogba leaves but we get Camavinga, Varane and Sancho. I'm sorry, I'm not. Maybe I'm in the minority, maybe I'm in the majority, I don't know. But I'm not sitting here and going, yeah, we'll be fine with Paul Pogba, because what people don't realise is that transfers are never 100%. If we get Camavinga, Sancho and Varane, I'll guarantee you now one of those players will end up being a technical flop. That's just the way it is. It's 60%, 70% success rate. Now, we might get lucky and they might all be brilliant for 3 or 4 years, but it's very unlikely that will happen. Paul Pogba, whatever you think about him, is established as a Manchester United player. If he walks out the door, you've got to get somebody in who's going to be as good as him straight away. And it's very, very difficult to do. So I don't agree with this whole Pogba thing. Leaving is fine if we get the players in we want. It exposes a real naivety that you can lose a player who is established in the team and bring in somebody who's not and be fine. It's ridiculous in my mind. Does buying Sancho hint towards a change of playing style? Give and go Donny more game time, says James Dublin. I don't think anything hints at anything other than your own hope, mate. I don't think we've got a bloody clue what Solskjaer and his coaches are going to do. We could play a back five next year. Hi Mark, if we get Varane and Camavinga too, who realistically can you see being sold? Can't see us selling or letting go more than 4, says Muzzy Lions. Maybe Pogba leaving is inevitable. Who can we replace him with? Savic, Sanchez, Ruben, says JB Park. Mark, I feel Pogba and Bruno could be a replica of Ndidi, Tillemans and Maddison. Just a very well balanced midfield, exciting but devastating if Pogba leaves, says Soup A Stars. And good morning Mark, what are your thoughts on Bielsa managing United squad? His way of football is amazing, says Achi. Well, you're talking in hypotheticals and it's a news show, mate. I can't really delve into 5 minutes about that, but I do rate Bielsa, but he's never going to be United manager, is he? Also, let's just talk about Brandon Williams very, very quickly. There's quite a lot to get through this morning. Brandon Williams on loan to Southampton is apparently going to develop according to The Athletic. I think this is a good move for Brandon Williams. I thought he was totally misused last season, and I think that he lost a year of his career, which is a shame. I do think we did the call in last night. I do think that there is a question mark over Solskjaer's ability to bring through young players. Take Mason Greenwood away and give me some evidence of this. I mean, look, we can talk about Diallo, we can talk about Pellistri, we can talk about Brandon Williams, we can talk about Twan Sebi. Take Mason Greenwood out of the equation, who is a generational talent, who I think even Mourinho would be picking. Then I don't see enough development of young players under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. People will say to me he's given more debuts than anybody, but that debuts are nothing. Debuts are nothing. It's like a first date. Do you have a second date? Do you get a third date? Do you marry them? Or do you just keep having loads of first dates? That to me shows indecision. The development of youth is actually consistently using them. I don't think we've seen that. So I think Brandon Williams will definitely be better off going on loan. And if he can get a Premier League loan and play regularly at Southampton, I think that'd be a very good move for him. Ishanu says, Mark, suddenly all these Varane, Camavinga popping up might be Glazer's spin. Can you ask your guy, is there these even real, says Ishanu. Well, look, we had Ask Your Guy. We had Fabrizio Romano on the show yesterday. Check out the video less than 24 hours ago. And we asked him about Varane and Camavinga. And he said, these talks are real. They are real. But as I said, if I said to you, Sancho's done, you get Camavinga, you get Varane, and Paul Pogba signs a new contract. Regardless of who we keep, that's an amazing summer window. You get Sancho, you get Varane, you get Camavinga, you get Pogba on a new contract. You sell Lingard, you let Matic go. You sell one of your goalkeepers. That's an elite summer. That is an elite summer. On the other hand, you get Sancho, you miss out on Varane, you miss out on Camavinga, Paul Pogba goes, you keep Matic, you keep Lingard, Mata's already staying, you keep both your goalkeepers. That becomes a bad summer. So Look, some people are half glass empty, some people are half glass full. The club have created those people in a footballing sense. I'm not talking about your personal mood, or I wake up in the morning, I'm full of life, or I wake up in the morning and I'm arguing with my cornflakes. That's what you like personally. Your football mood may reflect that, or your football mood may be different. But Manchester United have created Manchester United fans' moods because we have been subjected to their incompetence over the last 8 years specifically. So some people will be very suspect about what United are going to do. Some people will be like, I'm going to be really, really positive. And those positive people can be very irritating to the people who are, cynics. And likewise. And therefore you get what you get in football, which is a disagreement, which is absolutely fine. I think that... Look, I'm 75% sure we're going to get Varane. That means I'm more sure we are than we aren't. But I've got to say as well, I'm also dubious. I mean, do I think we're going to get Camavinga and Varane? I'll say what I said a few weeks ago. If we get Varane, it's a more impressive deal than Sancho. So I will applaud it if it happens. But ultimately, I'm not going to be stupid enough to think that we're going to pull those deals off. If we get Camavinga, Varane and keep Pogba on a new long-term contract, I think that is elite level that United should have been doing for the last 16 years. And it's a shame it's taken 16 years to do that, because that's what teams like Chelsea, Man City do every summer. And it's sad that if we do that we're going to applaud it like we're dons, when actually we should have been doing this consistently. And it just exposes how bad we've been for so many years that we have to, applaud what is competence. Is it really breaking news, gold standard, if United sign Sancho, Varane, Camavinga and get Paul Pogba on a new contract? I mean, Camavinga's cheap, Varane is cheap, so they are good deals, but they are cheap deals. And Sancho's been done over, we're paying for that over 3 or 4 years, and Pogba's already our player. We shouldn't be celebrating that. That should be the standard that we aspire to every summer. But the reality is, some people are like willing to, willing to throw their pants in the air or something like that. I do get it, but that's only because of how low we've dropped. Sheikh says, Sancho, Varane, Declan and also Camavinga signed and Pogba leaves. I would still say it's failed window. We should be signing players to play with Pogba, says Sheikh. The problem is Paul Pogba's got the power now, hasn't he? Not only his quality mark, experience and leadership, Pogba is one of a few who has won trophies at all levels. His influence as well. I see Ollie changing to play Pogba in a 2 with one of McFred and change the system a bit. Akshay, I hope that happens. Swapping Donny van der Beek for Varane makes a lot of sense if United can pull it off, though Solskjaer needs to bring more youth through the ranks, says Jack Lynch. I mean, where do people stand on that one, just before we move on? I mean, would you be happy to see a Van der Beek Varane swap? I'd be gutted. I'd be absolutely gutted. I really would. I'm not happy about Van der Beek leaving this football club. I do not think it's a good idea. And I've seen Van der Beek, and look, to be honest with you, blink and you'll miss it, but in the time we've seen Van der Beek play, I'm absolutely convinced he's on a totally different level to Fred and McTominay and Matic. He's way better. He's way better than them. And I think the problem we've got with that is because detractors will say, well, why is he not playing more games then? But why was Tuanzebe not playing more games than Lindelof? Why was Pogba playing on the wing instead of McTominay and Fred in the midfield when he's better than them? I don't think McTominay and Fred are better than Pogba, do you? And I don't think they're better than Van der Beek. I think Ollie and his coaches were just like, I want to play two workman-like passion merchants in the midfield who are not very expansive, but will do exactly as I tell them to do, which is sit in front of my back four and protect it. Whereas Pogba probably won't do that because he wants to be more expansive, and neither will Donny. So I think Donny and Pogba are better players than McTominay and Fred by a very long way. I just don't think Ollie and his coaches know how to deal with a Pogba and Van der Beek, who are better players. But they know with McTominay and Fred that if they tell them to stand there and not go anywhere else, they're going to do it. I personally think, which comes down to coaching, I suppose. I personally think Varane is 90%. I'm choosing not to be cynical, and Camavinga will be drawn to the Premier League as much as United, says Matt Tweed. I hope you're right, Matt. And who do you see as signing if we are to get both out of Varane or Camavinga, says Maul UK. And Mark, on Camavinga, Ollie doesn't use youth, so he might not even get on the bench. On Varane, it feels like we're being used, says Jack Sibley. So you got your positives from Jack, and you've got your positives from Matt, and your negatives from Jack there, which is exactly what I'm talking about. And it's funny because when I read Jack's, I'm thinking, ooh, and then when I read the other one, I'm like, I think that, look, I mean, that's something that's not really being mentioned a lot. Not only is Sancho done, but if you get Varane and Camavinga done quickly, we're ready to go for the start of the season, which I think is really positive. If we let Donny go, says Simran, and what I mean by that is that, Manchester United in the past, they get their signings done at the end of July into August. You're literally playing a game in August, so it would be good to get these players part of the pre-season. If we let Donny go, I'd be disgusted, says Simran. And apparently, Camavinga's playing in the Olympics anyway. So that's a great point actually. Even if we did try and replace Pogba, I don't know what we'd do. I can't think of anyone else like him. Thought of losing him terrifies me, says Daniel Kirk. Mark, on Camavinga, Ollie doesn't. Yeah, we did that one from Jack. I mean, look. Let me just say about Camavinga, if he's part of the French Olympic squad, that happens in August, which means he won't be playing in our first couple of games, which means who will be playing? McTominay or Fred, which means when Camavinga comes back, I've got Scotty or Freddie playing now, you're down the order. And I think that is a very good point about Camavinga. There would be a massive concern about Camavinga not being picked, and yet at the start of the season, he wouldn't get picked anyway because he'd be part of the Olympics. Then he comes back. We start the season quite well. Cammy, you're not even on the bench at the moment because I've got Scotty starting and Freddie on the bench and Matici. So we'll keep you back for Carabao Cuppy in September. And then the season becomes another Donny, doesn't it? So yeah, Camavinga would be a very exciting signing, but he's obviously not going to go straight into the team, is he? Especially because of the Olympics. So there you go. Manuel Locatelli is set to join Arsenal. So don't. Look, I thought Arsenal have done signings in the past that were impressive, and Locatelli. Look, there's no rule that a player can't sign for Arsenal. There probably should be. Their brain should kick in and say, why do I want to go and play for a mid-table club in England? But look, if they get that deal done, he's a fantastic player. Is giving them Donny was the only way to get Varane this summer? Wouldn't you do it? Says Harris Sheriff. No, I wouldn't. And maybe I'm cutting my nose off to spite my face, but I wouldn't give up Van der Beek for Varane. I just think the treatment of Donny van der Beek would be disgusting to do that. I think he deserves game time, and I think he can be a really good United player. I hope players are rewarded for their performance, and if a big player is not performing, well, he should be given a rest. No player is bigger than the team. Players need the motivation to play well, as says Pranay. There is a story coming in from the Manchester Evening News that David De Gea could be going out on loan. I think, I sometimes say things I don't want to happen, and I think I'm going to say something here like this. Like, I want I think that I think that Paul Pogba will run his contract down and leave next summer. I absolutely don't want that to happen. I think that's the worst scenario, but I think it will happen, so I don't want that to happen. You know, you lose Pogba for nothing. I don't think he'll be committed in his final year. Why would he be when he knows he's leaving? He's got to look after his body. He can't pick up bad injuries. So I don't think that's a good deal for anybody other than Pogba and Raiola. But I do think it'll happen, and as you know, I've said it many times on here. The second thing I'm going to say is that I've felt for a long time that there is a very big chance that United will loan out David De Gea, which I think is disgusting. Again, I think it's disgusting to treat a United great who is still in his prime like that. Is disgusting. You should not be loaning a player of that quality out. You should not be loaning out a player who has a history with the club like that. A loan move is what you do with Andreas Pereira. A loan move is what you do with a young player. You know, loan moves are for people you don't want or young players that need to develop. That, to me, would be a big up yours to David De Gea, and I don't think that should happen, but I think it will happen. And the worst thing about it is that based on very little evidence, it will be because he's going to stick with Dean Henderson, which I haven't seen this evidence. Maybe next season we'll see it, but I haven't. But it's not for me to choose, and if he goes with Dean, all the best to Dean. That's what it's all about. But the big thing with loaning David De Gea out is that, yeah, we got Jadon Sancho. Yeah, we got Camavinga. Yeah, we got Varane. Yeah, you're paying somebody 250 grand a week, $1 million a month to have our goalkeeper. Because that's what will happen. There is no club in the world that is going to take David De Gea on loan and take his wages. And who's going to take David De Gea on loan? Who is going to take him? It's not going to be Real Madrid. It's not going to be Atletico Madrid. It's not going to be Juventus. It's not going to be PSG. It's going to be an AC Milan or someone like that. Well, they can't afford to give De Gea more than 100 grand a week. David De Gea's on 350 grand a week. So for us to give David De Gea on loan to AC Milan or somebody equivalent, they'll go, well, we'll pay 100 grand a week, but you're going to have to pay the rest. 250 grand a week. We will be paying a player to not even be here. £1 million a month, 12 million a year. I mean, just ridiculous. But I think that probably will happen. Sheikh says, I watched that Lorenz and Marcotti. They were discussing a direct swap. They were not discussing a direct swap of Van der Beek and Varane. They were saying Van der Beek on loan to Real Madrid and Varane swap deal. Well, I think that's even worse. I don't think that's better, Sheikh. I think that's even worse. I think it's worse to give Real Madrid Donny van der Beek on loan so we can get Varane. I think that goes back to what I just said about David De Gea. If Ollie's decided he doesn't want De Gea and he doesn't want Van der Beek, sell them. Don't bloody loan them. They're senior internationals. They're senior pros. Do not loan them. That's even worse. Why should they be in the Andreas Pereira category? I just don't. I tell you what, if you said to Arsenal, do you want Donny van der Beek and David De Gea? If you said to most clubs in the world, they'd go, yeah, we'll have them. You know, they'll buy them. So I don't think you should be loaning players of that quality out. I really don't. I hope but what we should do, in fairness, is play devil's advocate in here and say, why are we loaning them out? Well, the reason you might loan a David De Gea and the reason you might loan a Donny van der Beek, because you should always look at both sides, is because Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is probably saying to Ed Woodward or whoever, I don't want De Gea here anymore, and I don't want Donny van der Beek here anymore. And then Ed Woodward and everyone goes, well, I can't sell him. Well, why can't you sell him? Because they're on ridiculous wages. We've only just given David De Gea a 5-year deal on 350k a week. Donny's only been here a year and he's on big wages as well. No one will buy him. Well, I don't want them here. Well, I'll have to loan them then. Well, all right then. But I'm going to look all right, Pratt. Well, you're used to that. See you later. Me and Carricky off to play keep-ups. I hope players are rewarded for their performance. And if big players... We've done that one. Camavinga has pulled out of the Olympics, Mark, says David. Good. That is good news, David, if it's true. How can we treat De Gea like this? If Ollie doesn't think he's good enough, that's fine, but he should have got Donnarumma. Henderson isn't good enough, says Jack Sibley. And a Camavinga signing would prove what Ollie would have done if we actually did sign Bellingham. Varane can bench either Fred, McTominay, but I don't trust Ollie, says Tabres. Well, Ollie doubts will continue next season anyway, won't it? And Camavinga did withdraw from the Olympics, which a lot of people are saying, which is good. That's good. So if we do get him, at least he'd go straight into the equation. But then you've got to hurdle the Bellingham thing, which is, look, Jude Bellingham is a fantastic player. In fact, comparisons between Bellingham and Camavinga are probably the best two comparisons you can have. Look at what Bellingham's done. Will Ollie look at what Bellingham's done and trust Camavinga? He should do, but we've got to buy him first. Koundé interest. This is coming in from a Sevilla outlet that Manchester United still retain a strong interest in Jules Koundé. However, they don't know how they would raise the funds to do that. I think this fits in nicely with what Fabrizio Romano was saying on the show yesterday, that Manchester United have a big list. That's when I asked him about, are they going to buy 2 centre-backs? Because that's a story from Manchester Evening News. And he said he's not heard anything about that. But beyond Varane, there is a big list. And beyond Varane, there is Pau Torres, who is playing tonight, obviously for Spain against Italy. There is Jules Koundé. There is... he mentioned that Gerard Romero at Atalanta, who is a player that we have been linked with as well. So there is a big list of centre-backs. And I think, we do have to put ourselves into the situation whereby... What if we don't get Varane? What if we don't get Varane? And if we don't get Varane, we will still get a centre-back. And then it could be Pau Torres. And then it could be Jules Koundé. But I said this a long time ago, and I think a lot of people are Christian Romero, sorry, not Gerard Romero. I think there are a lot of people who, like me, look, there was a time when Pau Torres would have been a good signing. There was a time when Jules Koundé was a very good signing. But when you're in for Varane, why go home and have beans on toast when you can be in a fine dining restaurant having steak and chips? And that's what I feel about Varane compared to Torres or Koundé or anything like that. I mean, maybe Torres will be better than Varane in a few years. Maybe Koundé will be better than Varane in a few years. But right here, right now, you're talking about a top 5 centre-back in the world, which we don't have, a winner, which we don't have, and somebody who's right in their prime. That, to me, at a ridiculously cheap price. You're talking about Varane is easily... Raphael Varane, if he had 4 years on his contract, would be 80 to 100 million pounds. Easy. That's the quality of player that you are talking about here. We could get him for 40 million. Not only is he the perfect signing, but he's ridiculously priced as well. So look, I think missing out on Varane and experiences Advath, missing out on Varane would be so disappointing. And I think that to me is why you've got to be careful. Make sure you smash a like on the video if you're watching, by the way. Let's just get into some of your question. Lewis says that Varane is awful and so overrated. But Lewis, you're entitled to that opinion. You might be the world's biggest troll. You might just be a big prat. But the point is, it's your opinion, Lewis. Crack on. You're in the minority. Like, there are people out there that think Varane's overrated. And I'm like, what were you doing for the Euros then? Digging a hole in your garden? Because you're digging a hole now. You need to open your eyes up, mate. He's one of the top 5 centre-backs in the world. You can disagree with it. Some people think Neymar's shit. But the reality is, you run a poll, Varane will be consistently in the top 5 centre-backs in the world. You are buying a top 5 centre-back in the world. Whatever your opinion, you are in the minority on Varane. And to be honest with you, I thought he was absolutely magnificent in the Euros for France. It's unfortunate that Kimpembe wasn't, but I think Varane I think Varane has everything United need. He's got pace, he's got ability on the ball, he's got experience, and he's a top 5 class centre back. And if you put him next to Harry Maguire, I think some people don't think Harry Maguire is a top 10 centre back in the world. I think he is. I just don't think he has been. But I think he will be if you put him next to Varane, because I think, look at Harry Maguire with John Stones. Harry Maguire with Lindelof is, it's like, well, I can't really say what I was about to say there, but it's like Margot Robbie marrying Ian Beale. It's not really a very fair relationship, is it? You put Raphael Varane in there, it's like Margot Robbie marrying Leonardo DiCaprio. They're a good-looking couple. I don't see that. As I said, Ian Beale is just like a prat off EastEnders. Is no oil painting, and I think that's what you get: Margot Robbie and Ian Beale with Lindelof and Maguire. And I think that is that Margot? Is that Maguire's fault? You put him with Brad Pitt or whatever I said, DiCaprio, Varane. You've got a very good partnership there. So I think Maguire with Varane will become a top class centre back, a top 10 centre back. And Vengel's right. If he signs a new contract with Real Madrid, there's nothing we can do. And I tell you what, when this happened 6 years ago with Ramos, we were still doing videos. I was gutted because it's worse. It hurts if if Varane goes and signs for Chelsea in the last minute, that'll hurt. But we'll be able to say, well, the board messed it up again, and you can let your frustration out on the board. If he signs a new contract with Madrid, you can't do that, because it's like, well, I'd be pissed off with the board, actually. I would be pissed off with the board, because I'd be like, why have you gone into something naively like you did 6 years ago? You know, if he wants to leave, you've got to make sure he wants to leave before you start doing this deal. And that, you know, Ramos played us, and we could get played. But as I keep saying, there is a hypocrisy here. There is a hypocrisy here, because we want Varane to come to Manchester United because he's got 1 year left on his contract for a new challenge. But then we want to keep Paul Pogba. And Pogba and Varane's situations are very similar. Chris Morton says, my brother is a ball boy at Rennes and has been watching Camavinga for a couple of years. He can play anywhere in the midfield. What a prospect, says Chris Morton. Don't know whether that's bollocks or not, but you know, it's a good story. Varane can't speak English, says Kilt Monkey. Well, I'm sure it won't take him very long to learn it. And Mark, don't you think Van der Beek is the perfect Pogba replacement? So now we're not going to buy a centre back because they can't speak English. You do realise that we've had players at Manchester United who played for Manchester United very, very well for years and years who couldn't speak English very well. Mark, don't you think Van der Beek is the perfect Pogba replacement? No, Aditya, I don't. And the reason I don't is because, unfortunately, we haven't seen enough of we haven't seen enough of Van der Beek to know if he's a good Pogba replacement. Because Ollie hasn't used him enough. I think when we bought him, I thought he might be. Here we go. This is a funny question. This is funny. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm drawn to this. 21 Fast to Furious says, cash in on Pogba like Liverpool did with Coutinho. I mean, there are levels of football understanding, and I think, you know, maybe you just dip your toe in the water every now and again, but we have been mentioning for the last 12 months that Pogba's got 1 year left on his deal. Coutinho went for £135 million. We are not going to get £135 million for Paul Pogba. We'll do well to get £40 million. He's got 1 year left on his contract. Cavani can't even speak English, says Ewan Black. Well, yeah, there's plenty of examples, yeah. John Sherrell, you know where the door is. In fact, I'll do it for you. Goodbye. And the Borg, it's a news show, John. Cavani can't speak properly English as well, says Morn, who doesn't type out properly English, but we get your point. Some English players can't even speak English, says McNally, yeah. Come in, Mark. Give us a massive yaya, says Apollo, okay. Thiago Silva's wife can't speak English. Well, she doesn't play centre-back for Chelsea either. I don't think that's a problem. What if Ollie continues McFred again, since Camavinga won't demand a starting place immediately and we don't have a CDM? Wouldn't it be the same back six again, says Shashank? Well, I think this is something we're going to build towards over the coming weeks, but I don't see Manchester United buying... I don't see Ole Gunnar Solskjaer not picking McTominay and Fred next season. Look, I hope they're not. Because I seem to remember at the end of last season, in a very pissed off mood, I seem to remember saying that if Ollie's picking McTominay and Fred next season, I'll be Ollie out. So I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen at all. But you know, we'll have to wait and see. Somebody just mentioned something about Max Aaron's. As I said yesterday, I do hope that Delot is given a chance at Manchester United, but I don't know whether that will happen. I don't know, but it would certainly save us some money, and you know, money is what makes the world go around, isn't it, for Manchester United, as we know. Hi Mark, totally hypothetical, but with the Pogba situation, would you rather see a player swap like Verratti than get cash for him, says Reece Williams. Well, I do. I like Verratti. Look, I've got to be honest. You can probably notice I'm a little bit tetchy, which tetchy means a little bit, you know, probably a little bit frustrated, irritated, whatever you want to say. I am quite concerned about this Paul Pogba situation, because I do see people just saying, "Oh, let's get rid of Pogba. We'll be fine without Pogba." And I think evidence in the past shows that that's not the case. You can't just remove players like that and say we'll be better off without them. McTominay and Fred will still be here. And I think that those two players are a massive problem. I don't care what they do for Brazil, and I don't care what they do for Scotland. What they do in a Manchester United shirt over the last 2 years worries me. I think Pogba and Fred can work together in the midfield, but for some reason Ollie doesn't want to do it. I don't think Pogba and McTominay will ever work, and I can't stand McTominay and Fred. So only Sean Dyche can speak English, says Talal. But I'm not. Look, I've always been a fan of Pogba. I'm not Pogba FC. I can't be arsed with any of that. But I've always been a fan of Pogba, and I've always been critical of him as well. I think he has been inconsistent. But I'll always say it. You can't remove players of that quality and just say we'll be fine, because transfers are not 100%. In my life, I think every United transfer we've ever done, 70% at best have worked. 30% don't. Varane didn't work. Falcao as a loan deal didn't work. Di Maria didn't work. Schweinsteiger didn't work. I'm naming players that I was excited about here. There's loads of players that I thought would be shit and were shit. Transfers don't work all the time. So you can't just say, oh, let's get rid of Pogba and all the signings we make are going to make it all fine. It won't. It won't. We need to try and keep him. And if we're not going to keep him, we better have a better bloody plan than an 18-year-old who actually should be coming in to play with Pogba. It's true 100% Mark he is. My family live there in Rennes. He's 10 minutes from the ground and end up getting a job there. I can't send pics here, says Chris Morton. Well, he's telling the truth, Chris, is that Camavinga's a very good player. Even if Camavinga comes, says Arapath, we don't have a good CDM because he hasn't played as a deep role in Rennes, and we will play like Fred and McTominay. Well, he has played as a CDM for Rennes. He has played there. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Nzonzi went to Rennes and therefore he took up the CDM role, which freed Camavinga up. But as I keep saying, Camavinga's best attribute is his tackling. And Ram makes a good point as well, that Camavinga will want first team minutes, of course, as well. As part of coming to United, he's a first teamer for Rennes who wants to play for France. He's not going to come to United unless Ollie says to him, you're going to be a first teamer. If he comes to Manchester United and he's not in the first team and he goes knocking on Ollie's door, what's Ollie going to say? Karaki, don't let him in, Karaki. Or what I meant, Cammy, is first teamer at the under 18s. Under 18s first teamer. Read the blueprinty. Hazard had 1 year left and still left for over 100 million, says Danny. He didn't. I thought he went for 80 million. Also, you're talking about pre-COVID Danny King as well. So, yeah. And also, you're talking about Chelsea. Chelsea did get an amazing amount of money for Hazard with 1 year left on his deal, I agree. And I bet Real Madrid regret that now, because God, they could do with that money. What name is Ollie going to give to Camavinga if we sign him? You want to do it, says Karim. I'd say Cammy. Karaki, Cammy. Read the small print. Well, Edward, I did it on purpose because it's Ollie. He doesn't get it right. He's saying you should have said small print, not blueprint. That's what I said, blueprint on purpose because it's an Ollie impression. He didn't get it right. It should be small print. You're right. We need Mark. An issue with Camavinga is defensive intelligence. He cannot intercept due to this. He's 18, mate. I love the way some football fans have to absolutely. If you were in Star Wars, you'd be Siths. Because the Jedi don't deal in absolutes, but Siths do. And we have these Sith football fans who absolutely have to box every player off. Camavinga cannot be a CDM because he plays as a number 8. He's 18 years of age. His best attributes are passing and tackling. He can easily become a CDM. Donny van de Beek is only a number 10. Well, he's not. He's not. He can play box to box and he can play off the right. So you're wrong. People just deal in these silly absolutes. And look, in Camavinga, he may end up being a number 8. He may end up being a box-to-box. Or we may end up turning him into a CDM. We may not even bloody buy him. So I don't panic about things like that because we turned Ashley Young from a right winger into a left back. We turned Antonio Valencia from a right winger into a right back. Don't tell me we can't turn a midfielder whose best attributes are tackling and passing into a CDM. He's right in the bloody area already. Ollie was lucky last season, says Dominic, that we were not allowed to go to matches. If we continue to play how we played last season at home, then Ollie will be out. Also, if we get Varane, which centre-back is sold? Well, you don't necessarily need to sell a centre-back. Bailly, Lindelof, Varane, Maguire. There will be injuries. And I think Twan Sebi will go on loan. Ryan Giggs was turned from a left winger into a centre midfielder. Yeah, good point. Paul Scholes went gradually back. He was a striker, he was a number 10, he was a box-to-box, he was a holding midfielder. Thoughts on losing Ahmad and Bay to AFCON and the Olympics, says Karim. I didn't know about that, but it won't really matter because they're not part of Ollie's plans anyway. Camavinga is easily adaptable and can be transformed, but no point if we don't. I don't know what you mean there, Apollo, thank you. McTominay was a striker apparently. But what is he now? You know, you're meant to move from something to be better. Pogba is the best centre midfielder in the world at present. We need to do everything to keep him, says Salesh. And I like this Pogba theme that's running through the show this morning because I agree with you. I think Paul Pogba is one of the best midfielders in the world at the moment. And that will be controversial in itself, but I do. And I don't think that you can just... I do think he is one of the best centre midfielders in the world. And I don't think you can just say, we'll be fine without him. This is a club that's not been anywhere near a Premier League title in nearly a decade. And you're telling me, yeah, we can afford to let Pogba go because we're getting Sancho, Varane and a young 18-year-old. Bollocks. We should be doing everything we can to keep him. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video. We are not alive at 8 o'clock. We will be alive, hopefully, but we're not live at 8 o'clock tonight because it's Spain against Italy tonight at 8 o'clock. We will have a 10 o'clock show for you, and we'll probably have a show for you this afternoon. So make sure you subscribe, smash a like on the video. Let's see what today brings. But excited for the next 2 nights in the Euros as well. Remember, I'll have both games as a watch-along. Lots of people have been tuning in for those. On Mark Goldbridge, That's Football. I've done a preview for the semi-finals as well that just went up half an hour ago. So I will be on That's Football from 7:30 both nights for both watch-alongs. England-Denmark tomorrow and Italy-Spain tonight. So make sure you tune in for those. Smash a like on the video. Make sure you subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. And Dara says, of course I want Pogba to stay, but him leaving and a good CDM with Donny van der Beek and McTominay rotation, box to rocks rolling the pivot, I could live with that, says Varane, depending on, of course. Dara, can I just say, whether we get the world's best centre defensive midfielder in the world or not, a CDM with Scott McTominay next to him or a CDM with Paul Pogba next to him it makes me want to throw up. Since when is Scott McTominay a decent box-to-box player? I think that's his position, but you can't say if Pogba goes we'll be all right because we've got Scott McTominay. Bloody hell. You know, it really is like, you know, when you go to work in the morning and you speak to your partner and you say, are we having that steak and those lovely potatoes and everything for tea tonight? I've spotted it in the fridge. Yeah, we are. You come home, the dog's ate it all, but don't worry, we've got a can of beans in the fridge. I mean, it's not the same, is it? It's not the same. But Van der Beek, look, who knows with Van der Beek? I'd love to think that Van der Beek's a replacement for Pogba, but did you see any evidence that Ollie thinks that last year? He never bloody used the lad. Never bloody used him. You're joking. You're talking nonsense. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. I'll speak to you all in a bit.